A long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, Dallas to be exact, we head back on the Wrestling Roadshow to 1982 World Class Championship Wrestling. And it is the Christmas Star Wars, not the Thanksgiving Star Wars, not the Independence Day Star Wars, not the Cotton Bowl Wrestling Star Wars, not even the Labor Day Star Wars. This is the Christmas Star Wars. Geez, you think Fritz had something for the movie?
Yeah, it does sound like he was a bit of a fan, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it looking at him, but he was a Jedi. He got into it.
Yes, between 1981 and 1987, World Class had 31 events using the Star Wars title. And I think it's an absolute miracle they didn't get sued.
Yeah, I guess they kind of flew under the radar, didn't they?
We had such fantastic events as Wrestling Star Wars, Return of the Kabuki.
What?
Wrestling Star Wars, Revenge of the Von Erich.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I was liking the start of this podcast, but it's gone downhill real fast.
The Freebirds Strike Back.
Please stop. You're killing me.
Okay, so if you're still with us.
Yeah, because I'm tuning out. I don't know about anyone else.
Okay, we're going to have a look at World Class Christmas Star Wars. Christmas in, well, August, but it is what it is. So, why are we looking at this show?
Well, I think it's because you wanted to tie it in with the post that I made on the website where I discussed the start of the Freebirds Von Erich's feud.
Yes, the World Class post on the World Class website.
Yep, that's right.
We cover other promotions, but...
Well, we try to cover a fair bit. But yeah, I posted that up on the WrestlingRoadshow.com website, and you thought it might be a good idea to do a podcast talking about it because the Von Erichs and Freebirds feud, which started at this particular event, still talked about today as one of the greatest feuds in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, and I think it was one of those feuds that carried World Class through at least the early 80s, if not even into the mid-80s. It was, one of the biggest thing going in the territory, and it was one of the biggest things in wrestling at the time.
Yeah, I think World Class was, sort of starting to get up there, but then once they did that feud, it really took off like a rocket. So that really sustained them even after Gary Hart left over a money dispute, I believe it was, and even with the new bookers, just the strength of that feud was able to carry on. I think I would say probably their big period was, I would say probably not from 1981 to 86.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Von Erichs sort of dropping off didn't help business at all. Sad to say, but unfortunately, David dying helped business a lot when it happened with the tribute shows. But yeah, as the family sort of saw more tragedy than triumph, unfortunately, so did the fortunes of the promotion. And of course, late 80s, the landscape of wrestling at the time, Vince going through was pretty much by the end of the 80s. We had Vince Crockett and a bunch of hangers-on, really, in America.
Yeah, I mean AWA. I think it limped towards 1991. I think, or maybe 1990, 91 when AWA shut down. So, but they were pretty much legless by that point. So yeah, it was pretty much just Vince and Jim Crockett Promotions, and then Vince and Ted Turner.
And of course, the thing that really helped Vince and Crockett Turner take that dominant position was the TV distribution, which in the early 80s, even through the mids, that was something that helped World Class hit the heights they did. I believe obviously World Class being based in Texas, you could watch a show in Texas, I think. But they also got as far as the Chicago market. And
Yeah, the syndicated network that they got on, they just kept getting more and more affiliates, if that's the term that you could use, and it just spread the product out further. And Mickey Grant is someone that was a real visionary, I think, when it came to filming and recording professional wrestling. Mickey Grant had the idea of the close-ups, putting extra microphones around the ring so you could really hear the smack when the wrestlers would punch each other, chop each other, or whatever. And a lot of different ideas that he brought to the table, and that got sent out, like you said, all the way to Chicago, which was not where they really did shows. And I guess that's the other aspect of it too. When you talk about, well, why did World Class go under? Apart from the regular tragedies that they seem to have, was also the fact that I don't think Fritz was interested in really going further out of his territory. It's just that the television station they were on just happened to take it further out. But if they went into another market and did one show, then they didn't tend to go back, even though the Von Erichs in particular got very popular all across the country, and a lot of promoters that wanted them booked on their shows. But Fritz just kind of wanted to stay in his own patch, so that was unfortunate.
yeah, and I think as far as Chicago, they even made it over to Israel, which was a bit different. So they had a regular run on Israeli TV. I think they did a tour over there, and yeah, they were very well received. But yeah, I think Fritz, he was involved with wrestling for a long time, but he also had other businesses outside of it. I think he did some real estate and might have even had a car dealership. So it might have been a case there of, he could go and travel all over the place, but he did have a strong base in Texas.
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware of that. So, that's a good point. And actually, that when they did tour Israel was actually the site of, unfortunately, another Von Erich's tragedy. That was when Mike was teaming with Kevin, and he got the shoulder injury, and went and had the surgery, got the toxic shock syndrome, and he was never the same after that as well. So, but yeah, no, I didn't know that Fritz had any other local business interests apart from the wrestling promotion.
Yeah, no, you diversified a bit, which it's smart business, especially when your promotion's gone by the 90s. But also, I think once Jackie died, I think Fritz changed, just from what I've read and seen. But once David died, that I don't think he was ever the same.
Yeah, from what I understand, he kind of I think he started out wrestling as Jack Adkisson, his real name. I could be mistaken on that. But yeah, I have heard that when their first son died as a young child, that's when he became the Nazi heel Fritz von Erich, took on a much more rougher and punishing style, and that may have been a kind of an insight into how he was feeling at the time. I think the death of David, in the grand scheme of things, was probably the start of the end of World Class, because I feel like, even though they did have that run from 81 to 86, and they did get that crowd at Texas Stadium when Kerry won the title from Ric Flair, but what I've often heard from people being interviewed is that if it had been David in that spot, it wouldn't have been 50,000 people at Texas Stadium. It would have been quite a few more. So, And I think that, David was probably probably the best as far as like an all rounder. He had the really intense promos. He kind of had that look of Fritz. Whenever he would frown and he would, his eyes would flare, and he was really, angry about something. You sort of see Fritz in that, and he was a great in-ring worker. Personally, I think my favorite was Kevin. But I think David was, I think he was probably the best of the Von Erichs. But yeah, I think, yeah, with David dying, and then that just kind of started the ball rolling downhill for the territory, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I agree with you actually on Kevin.
Yeah, I think I was just more of a, he did a little more high flying type stuff. Not to say that he was, doing the kind of moves that you see now with the 450 splashes and whatnot, but yeah, he was very, agile, and he hit hard, and promos weren't the greatest. Probably a bit the same with Kerry. I don't think either of them cut really great promos, but yeah, Kevin was probably my favorite of the lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of any of them really. But from what I have seen, like David had his fundamentals down, and probably objectively he was a better fundamental wrestler. That, admittedly, what I've seen David do has generally been with Harley Race, so yeah, that is a different style. And I think Kevin I've only seen on this show. Kerry I've seen bits and pieces around. But yeah, I think at the time I could definitely see where people call David a better wrestler. But I think looking back from a modern perspective, what Kevin does appeals more. Of course, this is 40 years down the track.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you on that. I won't argue with that.
Yes. So yeah, we've.
Are you surprised by that? You're like, yes. You're kind of like waiting for me to say, but.
No, we agree. We agree.
Good. Let's move on.
Okay, so this show opens with what I'm sure was normal for 1982 television, but just a nice shot of satellites attacking the Earth. I mean, broadcasting world class all over the planet. Yeah, it was different. So we've got Bill Mercer on the announce, which I think is like that's the sound of world class. I know there was some shows down the road where he wasn't able to make them. I think it was conflicting with his real job. He might have been on the news or a weatherman. I think he might have been a news guy. They had Mark Lowrance doing the shows, and he's not Bill Mercer. It's like watching WWE with anyone but JR, really. Like, yeah, they're okay, but it's just not the same. I say this as someone who's watched minimal world class, but Bill Mercer just sounds right.
Yeah, I think he, it was kind of that era when you had a lot of legitimate radio and television people that would be doing wrestling commentary, and that's what really lent it, that credibility that, that's a guy that works on such and such a station, reporting the news and and all that kind of stuff, and he's commentating the wrestling. And I think, yeah, you're right. I think Bill Mercer was a like a television guy. Had a really good voice, and he had a good knowledge of wrestling as well. Mark Lowrance, yeah, I don't think, certainly not on the same level.
No. It's Bob Goddard was the same. He was. I think we addressed this in the Smoky Mountain show we did, but yeah, he was a weatherman.
Yeah, and I love Bob Caudle as well. He was another guy that just had that great voice and, really good knowledge of wrestling. He just, gave the show plenty of credibility, just like Bill Mercer did for World Class. And I think you are right that when they added when they added the second television show, Bill Mercer couldn't make that one. And since it was the B show, then, it went to Mark Lowrance.
Might have even been network conflicts as well.
Could be, I don't know.
Yeah, if it was on a different channel, maybe. Oh, we don't. Yeah. I'm not up to speed on my 80s Texas TV rights.
Why not?
Look, you can cover many bases, but all of them is a stretch.
Okay, fair.
Okay, so this show, what aired is out of order to what happened, and we do miss a lot of matches. So the version of this show we watched, maybe the WWE Network version. I'm not 100% sure. It may be an earlier tape traded version. It's restored from original. So, yeah, if you have a look at this show on the WWE Network, where it is, it may be a little bit different to what we've got. It might be the same. That's okay. So, the matches that happened and did not air. We have Brian Adias and Frank Dusek, Al Madril and Jose Lothario against Checkmate and the Magic Dragon, Little Tokyo against Lone Eagle, and
Might have been for the best that those matches didn't air.
Yeah, I should really type these notes up because reading my handwriting, Jesus Christ. We didn't get David Von Erich and Bill Owen, did we?
The version that I saw, I thought it was David and the Freebirds against Iron Mike Sharp.
Yeah, that's... Well, you watched what I watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't
but he may have had another match. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we got that match, which means he wrestled... Well, it doesn't matter anyway, but he wrestled 3 matches in a row.
He was a workhorse. He loves to work.
Yeah. Okay, so the broadcast that we've got starts with the semi-main event. It is a match to crown the inaugural world-class 6-man tag champions, which really, with the way this promotion's set up with a family of wrestlers and a couple of larger teams, it's really a good title for the territory. Now, there's a lot of talk about titles these days, or 6-man titles, depending. And I've seen it a few times where promotions bring them in and don't really have the vision or division to really justify keeping them around.
Yeah, I know Jim Crockett Promotions had a version of a 6-man tag title. I don't remember that ever really reaching any great heights.
No, well, New Japan brought one in about 2016, I want to say, and it's a fun little belt, but it's gone through massive stretches of irrelevance. So the trio's name comes from the Lucha Libre, which honestly I prefer it because it's gender non-specific, and with the amount of Joshi I watch with trios titles, it's just easier language. But you really thought we were going to get through a 1982 World Class without me mentioning Joshi?
Well, it just goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Okay, so this match was the fabulous Freebirds against Ben Sharp, Mike Sharp, and Tom Steele. Now, a quick little note on Ben Sharp. This is not the original Ben Sharp. I got excited when I saw this match out because I thought, oh, Ben and Mike, oh, awesome. I haven't seen them. I want to see them. Then realized the time frame doesn't quite line up. But the original Ben Sharp, we unfortunately missed off our last podcast for his Olympic participation.
Oh, that's right.
He represented Canada in the rowing.
There you go.
In the 30s.
In the 30s. So maybe might have been retired by 1982.
Yeah. But so the original Sharps, actual brothers, actual Ben and actual Mike, they were instrumental in the early days of Japanese wrestling. Working with Ricky Dozan and the likes to really build the territory up over there.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's why I was getting excited about it. But no, Mike Sharp is Iron Mike Sharp, being Mike's son, and Kelly Kiniski playing the role of Ben Sharp.
As you do.
As you do. I mean, with a name like Kiniski, well, what does that mean to wrestling? No,
Well,
I'll be someone else.
Yeah, well, that's it. Oh, I'm surprised to hear that he was Kelly Kiniski because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's quite odd they didn't let him use that name. But anyway.
So yeah, we're a Freebird short for a trios match. We've got Michael and Terry, but Buddy couldn't make it. Might have been booked elsewhere. Might have had Christmas at home with the family.
Yeah, well, I think the reason they gave was something about he couldn't get out of Atlanta. So may have been a snowstorm. That could have been anything.
Could have been a Crockett show.
Could have been. Probably got a bigger payoff there.
Actually, I don't know if they were working there at that point.
Yeah, I don't think they were. I don't think they. No.
But yeah, luckily, the Freebirds have got their good buddies, the Von Erichs.
No.
And good bloke David was going to help out.
What a guy. What a guy.
What a guy.
After he's worked about 3 or 4 matches already, he's going to come out and do another one.
Yeah, this was his third, actually.
Well, maybe some other people got stuck in Atlanta with Buddy and David just had to fill in. Maybe.
But yeah, the Von Erichs and the Freebirds are such good friends, such a good relationship between the teams that David's happy to help his mates out and do them a favour.
That's lovely. And I think this was actually pretty cool that they did this. I mean, I'm going to assume that Buddy was meant to be there, and for whatever reason he couldn't make it in. So if that was the case, and this was a nice little piece of booking from Gary Hart, because obviously with what would happen later on in the show, it just made the Freebirds look like bigger arseholes.
Yeah. Yeah, and Gary Hart, he's a good booker, probably underrated a little bit in history.
Yeah, I think just the fact that I don't think he ever worked for Vince, and I know he was in Crockett. Was he with Crockett or was he WCW? But yeah, not enough people talk about Gary Hart, in my opinion.
No, he had a good stint out here in Australia too.
That's right. He was, I guess he was sort of, he was more than a manager. He, in terms of the typical professional wrestling manager that just, kind of does the interviews with their guys and, comes out to the ring with them. He would actually travel with them and, help them out on the road. And, he really cherry picked who he wanted to manage. I don't think he was ever really told, okay, we're going to put you with so-and-so. He would pick who he wanted to manage. And obviously, well, he was booking at the time. So, he would choose where he wanted to go. But yeah, definitely need to talk more about him.
Yeah, even I think once he lost the book in World Class, he'd still be in on the meetings advocating for his guys.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you see too many managers doing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the timeline because I know Gary had a falling out with Fritz over money. So he may very well have left. I'm not too sure. But, I know he definitely left. And then I believe Ken Mantell took over.
Yeah, there's a good story I've heard about when they got that second show and his workload doubled, where he just pretty much gave his kids the book and said, here you go, you're doing a good enough job with your Hasbros, book this show. And it actually wasn't bad.
Oh, well. But yeah, because I think Gary's deal, as he explained it, was he would basically go to the promoter and say, well, I'll get a certain percentage of whatever money I get over a certain amount, meaning I'm making you money. So I'll get a percentage of that so that, if I come in and book and business doesn't increase, then you owe me nothing. And that was what Gary's deal was. and I presume was the deal that he put to Fritz, and Fritz agreed. And, as things really took off with the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, and Gary was responsible for convincing the Freebirds to come to World Class because, from what I understand, when he first talked to them, they were like, yeah, I don't know if we can really make any money there. But, Gary convinced them that, no, come on down, we're changing some things and, brought in new talent and, we're off to the races. So I guess when they're doing all this big business and Gary goes to Fritz and says, hey, well, I want to, what's happening with the money? And they've gone, well, we think you're getting a bit too big for your britches. That's how Gary described. That's apparently what he was told. So I can't imagine him sticking around long after that.
No. Especially with like the reports of some of the money that people were getting with Crockett, you can see why they'd go there.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what sort of sent him bust sent Crockett bust in the end and brought Turner in.
Yes, it's a possibility.
And then they were still losing money through the 90s for paying people too much. And yeah, anyway.
But that's another rant for another podcast.
So yeah, we're talking about the 6-man tag match, and this, as soon as they went to the shot of the ring, I thought we were in the Battle Royal with the amount of blokes that were in there. And all 6 of the wrestlers, plus the 2 referees. And the 2 referees, I think, was an interesting idea. It happened a few times on this show. I don't know if it was just a world-class thing, or they had, in this match, Bronco Lubitsch and Nick Roberts.
Okay, yep. I guess maybe they figured that, we've got 3-on-3, a little bit too much for the referee to handle, so we'll have another second referee keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, I like the concept. Even if Bronco wasn't moving real flash, so that may have been another reason why they had another guy in there.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting seeing 1982 Terry Gordy. He looked rough. Like he almost looked like an unfinished product in a way.
A diamond in the rough, you say?
He was big and he was wild, but he hadn't quite toned that physique in yet.
Yeah.
So I'm watching through 92 All Japan, and we're 10 years later, and that's what I'm familiar with. Now we're going back 10 years, and yeah, it was different.
But definitely one of the best workers, I think, Terry Gordy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan. I thought Iron Mike Sharp had quite a good look.
Yeah, I was always a big fan of Mike Sharp. Yeah. Yeah, even when he was working for Vince and he was mostly an underneath guy, but a real heavy hitting type guy, and he would make a lot of noise, and he's a big muscular looking dude. So yeah, I didn't mind old Iron Mike.
Yeah, definitely fit what most promotions were looking for in the 80s.
Yep,
at least appearance wise. What were your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was probably more of the underlying story that kind of got me into it. Because I think from memory, the match goes on for quite a while. And I don't know what the Sharps meant to the world-class fans or anything like that. It was a very competitive match. But for me, I think it was more the underlying story. And of course, it's kind of like looking up the textbook for the answer. You already know what's going to happen later on. So, watching it through those lenses, it was like, oh, this is really good booking because of what's going to happen later. You never guess that the Freebirds are going to turn on the Von Erichs. And the aftermath of it, which I'm sure we'll talk about, it just added more to this story. It just made the Freebirds look like even bigger heels than what they were already going to be, because by that point the Von Erich boys were just really over, and that's where I think you often talk about nepotism in professional wrestling. The father runs the promotion, so the son gets the push. But I think in the case of the Von Erichs, they fully deserved whatever success they got because they're all very talented and they all made solid connections, regardless of whether their father was the promoter or not.
Yeah, they had the ability and they drew the crowd in. Like the crowd wanted to see him in that position, so you'd be stupid not to give it to him.
Yeah, and I think that's why you tended to see a bit of a theme as time went on that guys would come in and they'd make them friends with the Von Erichs. And then ultimately, when they want to turn them heel, it's like, oh, okay, well, now you're going to turn on the Von Erichs, and they're just instant heel. They go from, like Chris Adams, same thing. He went from being one of the top baby faces, as the Freebirds were, all of a sudden one of the most hated guys in the territory because they turned on the Von Erichs. So it was a nice little formula that worked for a while.
Bundy as well.
I didn't know that about Bundy. I didn't know how I just assumed he came in as a heel. I didn't know he came in as a friend of the Von Erichs.
Yeah, he came in and then had a bit of a run with Fritz.
Yeah, I remember that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was based on betrayal.
Oh, it always is, isn't it? Oldest story in the book.
It's simple, yet it's effective. There's no reason to overcomplicate things.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna rant about modern wrestling tonight.
No,
I'm in a relatively good mood, so I'm not gonna. Yeah. Let's just move on.
So yeah, we're not talking about modern wrestling, but I thought it was pretty cool that David won the match with a V trigger.
He did too. That's right. He did too.
A running knee strike for the those that have been watching wrestling for more than 20 minutes. But yeah, this match was I don't want to say it was sloppy, but there was a lot of motion. It was a bit wild, but it was all sensible, so it was good.
Yeah, I think a lot of this sort of wrestling from that era, like sometimes when they throw a drop kick or they do a certain move. I think there's something good about wrestling when it doesn't look as pretty, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah, like even like the way wrestlers take bumps back then, it's a more realistic way of falling down after taking a hit. Whereas now, and I know I said I wasn't going to rant about modern wrestling, but now you see the really pretty back bumps with the arms outstretched and the slap when they hit the mat, and it's also beautiful looking. And I just love the more of this the wild and more of a natural type of way of
it's rough
performing.
It's a fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that I think is the style that really worked, especially with the Texas crowd in general, but in the Dallas market in particular.
Yeah, I think mainly any type of Southern wrestling, I think you could probably say.
Yeah, so they're doing the style they like. You did mention drop kicks. I thought David actually threw quite a good one out in this match.
Yeah.
That high spot there.
I was just, I think what I was thinking about was maybe not specifically the match, but earlier today, I was watching Killer Tim Brooks against Mil Mascaras in World Class from around that time period, and I was thinking about the drop kicks and some of the stuff they did in that, and yeah, it wasn't always pretty looking, but I actually prefer it that way.
Yeah, it's rough, tough, and real. Okay, so it's as mentioned, David Von Erich wins with a knee strike, and he's such a good guy. He helped his mates win the belt. He's technically a champion, but that's all right. Buddy can have it when he comes back.
Yeah.
So David vacating his portion of the 6-man tag titles quite conveniently when you look at what transpires.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, like not only does Kevin get the win for the team,
David.
but then he graciously gives up his portion of the belts and says, "Oh, Buddy can have it when he comes home."
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah,
what a guy.
So moving on. We have the NWA American Heavyweight title on the line. Kevin von Erich defends against King Kong Bundy,
Ooh.
or Slim Kong Bundy by comparison. He was in shape.
I don't remember. Did he have hair?
No,
This
that was
point, or-
gone by this
That was
point.
gone.
He
Yeah.
lost it a little bit earlier. I think he lost the hair and the belt around the same time.
When he was feuding with Fritz, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I tried to look a little bit into it. Yeah, and I think that's where the hair went. But he hadn't quite put on the entirety of the size that he'd have by the time he hit the top line WWF stuff.
He wasn't a condominium on legs yet.
No, not quite a condominium, more just a small apartment building.
Ah, okay. Right. Yeah.
Units, I guess. I don't know. We don't have condos here, so it's hard to really gauge.
Yeah, what the hell is a condominium?
I think it's just an apartment.
Ah, okay. No, fair enough.
But yeah, maybe like a big one.
A big one. Are there any small? Do you know if there's small condominiums, or are they big? They got to be big.
They're just called condoms.
Ah, right. Jesus.
Your referee for this match, David Manning, a very important figure in world-class history, and quite a decent referee, I thought too.
Yeah, I think they had it, and he was very influential behind the scenes. Yeah, like you said, and attended the booking meetings and things of that nature. So, yeah, I think he did a lot behind the scenes as well as just being the referee.
Yeah, Fritz's right-hand man, and quite often in a lot of the retrospective things, they'll be it a WWE DVD, probably an independent DVD or two. I think you've got one, or the Dark Side of the Ring stuff. He generally tells a lot of the stories there.
Yeah. He Heroes of World Class.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's a really good documentary. I recommend that to anyone. Yeah, a lot of David Manning. Especially talking about David's death.
Yeah, so Bundy had just joined Gary Hart here after the turn on the Von Erichs, and they were calling him Devastation Incorporated, which I think later become the name of Skandor Akbar's stable.
Yeah.
I don't think we were quite there yet.
Yeah, I always associated that with Skandor Akbar. I didn't think it was any Gary Hart type thing. So
Yeah, no, just
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, they were using that on the commentary. So yeah, it might have just been before, or it might have been he might have been part of the group and they just didn't pick it up.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Yeah, that stumped me.
Yeah, so his opponent, of course, Kevin von Erich, who looks like he had misplaced his shoes for this evening.
Yes, he did that frequently.
He's a free spirit, young Kevin.
But I'm pretty I'm pretty sure that what I heard was that was how he started wrestling barefoot. He forgot his shoes one time.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right. Why else would you try it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the Sportatorium was a bit of a grimy building too, so hopefully he sort of washed those feet.
Well, you'd hope so. He at least wiped them before he entered the ring.
Yeah, the old respectful, old-fashioned style.
But yeah, I mean, I can't think of anyone that wasn't a Pacific Islander like Haku or Jimmy Snooker. I can't really think of any non-Pacific Islander that was like Kevin that didn't wear shoes. I mean, I know Matt Riddle. I don't think he wears boots.
No.
He?
Yeah. As of last time I saw him, enters in thongs or flip-flops for the Americans, kicks them off, and then wrestles barefoot.
There you go.
I think there was someone else. I think Ernest Miller might have been shoeless.
Yeah, he probably would have been. Yeah.
Yes, Jerry Flynn might have been as well. I guess the martial arts side there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Not too sure about Jerry Flynn, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, and I think I've seen a couple of people in Japan as well doing it. But again, that's more along the martial arts angle than I forgot the shoes.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much just Kevin's issue was forgot the shoes and thought, screw it. I'll just wrestle barefoot. All good.
Either that, or maybe he was just waiting for a sponsorship.
Possibly, yeah. I think he would have been.
Yes. Yeah, I
mean, they did pizza ads and they did all sorts of other stuff. So, I mean,
good, wholesome pizza ads.
Yum. I had pizza tonight. It was good.
Yeah. Domino's? Were you?
No, more Pizza Hut, man. No, Domino's.
We're not crossing that bridge.
No. Well, that's for another podcast.
That's for another podcast. Yeah, so I actually really enjoyed this match between Kevin and Bundy.
Yeah, that's good.
They did the big man, little man thing, but it was sort of realistic and actually looked fair in a way.
Yeah.
Kevin's not that small.
No, he's pretty muscular too. So
yeah, Slim Kong Bundy wasn't really that big at this point. So it looked like they were either end of a weight division, not 6 divisions apart like this type of match normally looks.
Yeah, it wasn't like WrestleMania 3 with King Kong and the midgets. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, or Andre and the midget. What?
Hey?
No.
Let's move on.
Actually, it probably was a little bit closer to Andre and Hogan because, yeah, they were both reasonably big. Hogan wasn't a small man.
Yeah, I don't think Hogan was that, to Andre. I mean, he was... Well, Hogan was, 6'8", wasn't he? Or something like...
Allegedly.
Something like that, allegedly, so...
Yeah, so there wasn't a huge...
They weren't far off.
Yeah. Yeah, your thoughts?
I don't honestly remember that much about it. To be honest, it's been a little while since I've watched it. Like I said, I don't have a lot of great comments on this one. Sorry.
No, that's all right. The finish was that lovely 80s garbage that tends to come through a bit. I say this from the perspective of someone modern, not someone who was at an event, saw a non-conclusive finish, and then bought a ticket to the next event. I say this as someone who's watched through a bunch of late 80s All Japan, where getting a finish was rarer than a lot of things. So Bundy throws Manning into Kevin. Manning is invincible and then didn't actually like a normal ref would.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he saw him throw him over the top rope.
Yeah.
But the DQ was actually for Bundy throwing Manning into Kevin. So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was a nice little bait and switch kind of finish.
Yeah, which didn't really hurt Bundy too much. And given this was match 4 on the card, it's not like they had to worry about how the people would be sent home.
Yeah.
Given that there was a Von Erich in every match afterwards, any ill will, I guess, from a non-finish here, yeah, you can roll with that.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would have been complaining too much.
No, but speaking of screwy finishes, we have a recap of Flair and Kerry von Erich. Just another screwy finish, but I guess when the NWA title's involved, you don't want the champion to come in, beat your top guy clean, and move on. So I guess there's a little bit of an exception for the screwy booking and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it kind of worked both ways. It gets the NWA champion out into the world, but it's also designed to put over the top local guys. So, but yeah, they do show that montage of I think Flair had brought in like an NWA referee, or trying to think of what his name was, but he was. Young. Sorry? No, it wasn't Tommy Young. It was I've never even seen him before. But yeah, this had like this Flair had like his own referee, and he would rule in favor of Flair and all this sort of thing. So I think that's why they did like the steel cage and 2 out of 3 falls and all the other things and all the other garnish added to it, because now Kerry's finally going to get his shot. He's finally going to get a fair chance at beating Flair, and then we got what we got.
Well, yeah, the territory up to this point, obviously at this point in the show, we haven't got the Von Erichs and Freebirds program in action yet. But basically, the territory with the Von Erichs was pretty much built around the title chase. And once Kerry finally did win, a lot of the appeal sort of come off with the title chasing. I was like, oh, he's got it now. Oh, what next? It
Yeah.
was a lot more about the chase than actually getting there.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think it was also a factor of that, well, David's not going to do it now, so Kerry got to be the champion.
Yeah.
And while it was a big moment, I think ultimately after they sort of thought back, dwelled on it and thought, we would have preferred it if David won it.
Yeah, although Kerry is in this match here 2 years prior, so I guess he's in that picture. It's not like they plucked some guy out of the mid card to do it when it needed to be done.
Yeah, and then like I think you mentioned earlier that David got shots at Harley Race, and I think Kevin may have gotten shots as well. I'm not too sure, but I know David and Kerry definitely were in the picture. So
Yeah, and David and Harley worked, or Harley and David, they worked really well together. Saw a match from 1979 in St. Louis. It was David and Fritz in a handicap against Harley. This was before David had really established himself as a top guy. And Fritz didn't even tag in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty much just Harley and David having the match, and it was good. Crowd was getting behind David. I think that was one of the key sort of things that politically established him as being able to go and set the territory up in Dallas, just based on, yep, he can go, we can go, and we can do this. So, yeah, it's somewhere on YouTube. I assume it's still there. It was a while ago that I saw it, but it's worth seeking out.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to have a look at that. Yeah, that sounds like an interesting match.
Yeah, so as you mentioned with the referee controversy, the fans got to pick the referee, and they picked Michael Hayes. I don't think any of the other options were really any chance.
I think it might have been just Michael Hayes, or Michael Hayes.
I think Duke Kiyomuka was in there too.
Get the hell out of here. Well, a great kabuki or something.
Yeah. And I didn't take note of who the other ref was. This was another double ref match.
Pretty sure it was David Manning.
I thought it was Manning.
Yep.
I didn't write it down, so it wasn't anyone different.
No, I think he was mostly the guy to do the important matches.
Yeah. And,
because, like you said, old Bronco Lubitsch had a few issues at times. So yeah, you can't really have a referee like that doing such an important match.
Yeah, and so yeah, we've got Hayes helping Manning out refereeing. We've got Terry Gordy keeping an eye on the door, and I've got a question. How is any of this fair to Flair?
Well, I think it. Well, I guess it just, like I said before, that oftentimes there'd be some sort of screwy situation where Race would somehow retain or Flair would somehow retain, and there'd been all this BSing that led up to this time. So I guess they thought, well, we're sick of getting screwed around by Flair, so now we've got a foolproof plan. It's a foolproof way of Kerry getting the fair shot at the belt. But you're right, it's not very not very fair to Flair. You're right,
it's not fair to Flair.
But he shouldn't have done all those naughty things before.
Well, I guess it makes sense from wrestling, but it's a bit unfair from sports.
Stacking the odds against the heel.
Yes, and Flair, NWA champion, wrestling a ridiculous schedule. I think he had like 200 or 300 matches that year.
Wow.
He was on his way back from Puerto Rico when he did this. That was where he had the famous loss to Jack Veneno.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Phantom change.
Yeah. So, was it 1980? 287 matches.
Wow. But I mean, he was on terrific money as well. So, I mean, he
Yeah,
was very well compensated.
yeah, he had a couple of days off between the Puerto Rico show and this one. Then following this, on the 25th, he had two world title matches on the 26th, one in Ohio, one in West Virginia. The 27th, he was off to North Carolina. 28th, South Carolina. And then the 30th in Virginia. So, yeah, he wrestled more in the last week of this year than a lot of people do in a month these days.
Yeah. And that was another thing that I heard Gary Hart did as the booker would, if he was going to book Flair, for example, he wouldn't book him on any of the spot shows. He would just say, no, just come in for the bigger shows, sort of give them a rest where they had a chance to, make good money without sort of, beating them to death, knowing that they had that type of schedule. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Flair went to World Class a lot, so we obviously appreciated it. And Fritz had the position of power in the NWA as well, which doesn't hurt.
Yeah, but I think it was a place where when the territory started cooking, you could really make some money as, coming in for those bigger events. So I'm sure Flair enjoyed going down there and wrestling.
Yeah, and I think he enjoyed working with the Von Erichs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 18,000 people here in the Reunion Arena on Christmas night, so I think he would have made a little bit of cash.
Yeah, I can't remember what the percentages were like, that a certain percentage went to the Alliance and different things and that. But, yeah, Flair would have got a good pay packet, I'm sure, from just that one show.
Yeah, I think the Christmas Day shows in the territories were generally pretty profitable.
Yeah, I guess they open their presents in the morning. And what else are you going to do in the evening? Oh, go to wrestling. Yeah.
Well, you got the family around, so there's a couple
Yeah.
of tickets.
Pack them all up in the station wagon. Off we go to Dallas. Yeah, too easy.
Yeah, well, 18,000 people had that idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're in Texas, and this match is really another of those just knockdown, drag them around, brawl type matches, which is in a cage, which makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, there's a lot of color in here.
I don't remember them using the cage that much, though. I mean, they did eventually, but I think it kind of started out as more of just having a match that just happened to have a cage around it. And then they started kind of roughing each other up against the cage.
Yeah, well, they'd had the heat beforehand, so it just made sense that they'd go at each other hard.
Yeah. It did look a little crowded, though, I thought, with the four guys in the ring with the cage around.
Yeah, and I guess some of that could have been positioning too.
Well, they should have learnt that in wrestling school.
Yeah, well, I mean, Michael Hayes, not really known for his refereeing, so
no.
Yeah, just he might have been out of his element there.
Well, refereeing in jeans, so
yeah,
not a conventional referee.
I think he was not wearing stripes or any shirt at all, really.
No, he didn't. No.
So I guess that made sense. He just won a six-man tag title.
Yeah, he's entitled to do what he wants.
Yeah.
Guy out there bare-chested, too easy.
Yeah, and he's an excitable young lad here on this night. He's just getting excited about enforcing the rules, which I guess, given the history with Flair, it made sense to be a little bit over-eager to try and make sure the match went fair.
Probably a little overzealous, though.
Yeah, we're a no DQ cage match, and there's rope breaks. Or is he just doing it right?
That was the other match I watched today. Fritz and Kabuki, and the announcer keeps going on about it's no DQ, but then rope breaks, huh?
Yeah. What do you
screwy?
They get to 5.
But But yeah, you're right. Michael Hayes definitely. Yeah, he as time goes on, and the fans you can sort of hear the fans. They're starting to think something not quite right here. And then especially when he's like, getting Kerry in a headlock, he's like pulling him by the hair and enforcing the rules maybe a little bit more than what he should. I think that's when people are kind of like, yeah, something's up here. But yeah, they built the heat pretty well, I thought.
And they had that side story of the heat with Flair as well. There was at one point he just has a gutful and just smacks him.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
pretty much, here you go, Kerry, here's a match, but Kerry's a good boy. He doesn't want to win that way.
These Von Erichs, wonderful lads.
Wonderful lads. And yeah, so that's when Hayes goes to leave, has the argument with Kerry. Then Flair knocks Kerry into Hayes, which I thought was good because it wasn't such an obvious turn there. It was sort of that, oh, you did this. No, you did this.
Yeah, there was a bit of a blur. Yeah, there was kind of a blurred line there. And I think also for what Terry Gordy ends up doing, you could kind of say, well, he's kind of obscured because, he didn't see because Flair does the knee in the back and then he drops down. And Terry Gordy looks up. Hayes has gone flying out the cage. Gordy can just see Kerry. So, he assumes, oh, Kerry's just, hit my brother in the back. Wham! Take that.
Yeah, so in his mind is justified. And yeah, it was a good piece of booking, well executed.
Yeah, because I think it's always good if you can do it in a way where the heels can justify it without kind of stretching too far for an explanation, where you can kind of think, I can kind of see the point, but we're still pissed. But yeah, maybe they kind of have a point there. I don't like it when they do these just ridiculous swerves that make no sense whatsoever, and then they've got to try and cut promos explaining this shit.
Well, the most convincing villains in any form of entertainment or reality are the ones that believe they're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess in the Freebirds' mind, they're like, well, Kerry attacked my brother, so I'm gonna slam his head in the door and then piss off, and that's what happened.
Yeah, but interesting that the match continues after this. I don't think I'd seen it prior, but I was under the impression that was the finish. But that goes on for a little bit. Kerry hits the discus punch, and then the ref just awards it to Flair. Is Kerry going to continue?
Yeah, I was always under that impression as well, that he got hit with the cage, and then Flair got the pin. But yeah, you're right. They sort of go on for a little longer, and it looks like Kerry's going to be able to fight. But then he just kind of collapses, and blood everywhere, and referee's checking in on him, and it's like, yeah, nah, he's fucked. Which I thought was a much better finish than what they did later with the Super Clash match, Kerry and Jerry Lawler, when they stopped the match because Kerry couldn't continue, which was absolute rubbish finish. But I think in this case, you can kind of look at it and go, yeah, you can see why the referee stopped the match, because even though Kerry did make a bit of a comeback afterwards, he collapses, he's covered in blood. Yeah, maybe we should stop the match.
Yeah, it's wasn't a conclusive finish, I thought. 80s booking, I guess. They got to keep Kerry looking strong.
Yeah.
Copping a door in the head probably would have been a good enough reason to take a fall, but
these guys are invincible.
Yep. Well, unfortunately, history would show that they were very clear.
Well, maybe I should have rethought that. But
we're in 1982, and that's still the case, though.
Yes, they're all still alive, and world class kind of gets a rocket, and they go to the moon with the Von Erichs and the Freebirds.
Yeah, and we'll probably take a look at that a little bit more in depth, the follow on down the line. But now we have the main event of the evening.
As if that wasn't the main event.
I think this is something that I think WWF did it as well, where they'd have the big match in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's done this way. I guess this show went for an hour and a half, so potentially going into the different time slot, the rating might not have been as important there. I don't know how much competition they had on Christmas. Oh, they wouldn't have aired this on Christmas night. It was edited, but yeah, I don't know why they do it, but they did it. So yeah, our main event, battle royal for a cash prize of about $10,000.
Woo!
When you're having a battle royal for the sake of having a battle royal, you may as well throw some money in. It's an angle that I really like.
Yeah. But you think that would have happened earlier in the show?
Well, to be fair, this match was the third last match on the show in the arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this happened before the before the Flair von Erich, Flair Kerry title match and the trios title match.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like when you tuned into like the USA Network. They had the first Royal Rumble, and they do the Royal Rumble, which admittedly they didn't know whether the Royal Rumble concept was going to work or not. And you think, well, that's probably going to be the last match on the show. No, let's throw in a 2 out of 3 falls match between the Islanders and the Young Stallions, where the Islanders win in 2 straight falls. Give me a break.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason that it was done, but I can't think of it. If anyone has an explanation, podcast at thewrestlingroadshow.com.
Yes, where we also accept questions and other statements that you want to make that you might want read out on the show. That's the email address to send it to, podcast at thewrestlingroadshow.com.
And speaking of that email, we have an email that was relevant to our last match that I probably should have read earlier. In the previous episode of the Wrestling Roadshow podcast, we talked about wrestlers at the Olympics.
We did.
And in there, we talked about Kerry von Erich not making the Olympics.
Yes.
So we have this email from Mark in Sydney.
Oh, Mark from Sydney. Oh.
Just to clarify the rumors about Kerry going to the Olympics if US hadn't boycotted. It's a crock. Yes, he was a standout athlete in track and field, but the decision to boycott Moscow was made in February 1980. Kerry had already made his pro wrestling debut almost 2 years previous in May 1978, and therefore was ineligible under the existing rules to participate at the Olympics.
Okay. Well, it was a good story anyway.
Yeah.
My boy couldn't make the Olympics, those damn commies. Well, thank you, Mark from Sydney, for supplying us with that information.
Yes, always good insight from Mark, and I don't think that'll be the last we hear of him. From him.
Jeez. I mean, no, that's good. Look forward to hearing from him again.
And one of our loyal listeners.
Yeah, and it's good. We do have some loyal listeners, I think, not just Mark. I think we've got a few more, so yeah, it's good. But and so what happened with that Battle Royal?
So the Battle Royal, our participants. David von Erich.
Oh, you're not going to go through all of them, are you?
That's not that many.
Oh, okay. No, fair enough.
Bill Irwin. King Kong Bundy. Alma Drill. Mike Sharp. Jose Lothario. Tom Steele. Bugsy McGraw. Ken Mantell. Brian Adias. Frank Dusek. Ben Sharp. Checkmate. Magic Dragon. And The Spoiler.
Not bad.
So,
not a bad array of talent there.
Yeah. So this was a battle royal. That's really all there is to say about it. And Ken Mantell won.
Oh, good. The future booker.
Future booker Ken Mantell. So I'm sure he spent that $10,000. I'm sure he made the most of that. So nice little Christmas present.
He might have put that towards Wild West Wrestling.
Yeah.
But and then he cuts like a really over the top babyface promo where he says, "Oh, I'm just so happy to be here," and "Oh my god, I can't believe I won this," and yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I think you know how you'll watch a game of football and then the game will end and then they'll have like another 15, 20 minutes in the time slot where they generally just do highlights and talking.
They just talk shit. Yeah,
That's what I think this battle royal felt in this program.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I just feel like if it came before the main matches at the time, then yeah, okay, all right. But for the television audience, I mean, you'd be drained after, particularly after that cage match. You'd be like, why do I want to hang around and watch this battle royal?
Got to see who wins the 10,000.
Oh god.
And Flair would have pocketed just shy of that.
Well, yeah, I think he would have done all right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the World Class Championship Wrestling Christmas Star Wars 1982.
And yeah, like you said, it was kind of interesting the way they did, because I always thought for a time there that Star Wars was like their WrestleMania or their Starcade. But yeah, they ran several of these, and they did pretty good business. I think they always did. No, they didn't always do them at Reunion, but I think that they started that trend of taking it from the Sportatorium to the Reunion Arena, which was a much bigger venue. But it was good.
Cotton Bowl too.
Sorry,
they did one in the Cotton Bowl too.
Yeah. So yeah. Fritz liked his Star Wars, and there were some pretty good shows too.
Yes. So thank you for joining us here as we've discussed this show. We'll be back again with the next podcast. So we might cover a show. We might be back to regular programming. You'll have to tune in and find out. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our website, thewrestlingroadshow.com, where we've had a beautiful Bobby Eaton profile. Unfortunately, due to his passing, we've got a couple of music posts there covering a wide spectrum. We got a little bit more in the works, always growing on that site. And of course, that's the home of the podcast. If you don't get the podcast through the website, you can also get it through a number of services, including Amazon, Spotify, Apple, Google, Podcast Addict, and I'm sure there's a few more.
Well, what was Deezer? Was that one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yep.
Yeah, never used it, so I can't get in and check it, but apparently we're there. So if you use it, I think it's big in Europe. Hopefully we will be too one day.
Yeah, sounds like a European thing to me.
Yeah, yep.
Doing a Deezer.
And we've also got the social medias. What are they?
Yeah, you can check us out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roadshow. Also got Twitter, and I think you're on Twitter now as well.
I am on Twitter.
Yeah, but we have an official The Wrestling Roadshow Twitter page, which is twitter.com. Was it? I think it was at Wrestling Roads 1. Wrestle Roads 1. Something like that. Wrestling Roads 1. That's the one.
Yeah, and of course I'm on as Roadshow_Chris. You're on there too.
Yeah, I think I'm on there somewhere. Yeah, I'm under a different name, but I also have the Wrestling Roadshow Twitter page as well.
There we go, and we've also, of course, got the email address, podcast@thewrestlingroadshow.com. So any questions you'd like answered, any feedback you'd like to give us, that's the best place. I mean, we're monitoring everything here, but we get that. Yeah, anything you want read out on the show, any plugs. Yeah, send us an email, hit us up, drop us a line, however you want to phrase it. And yeah, what else we got to plug? The Australian Wrestling website, australianwrestling.org, a previous project of mine that's it's needed a little bit of love over the years, undergoing a very slow redesign. And that's got some profiles, some results covering a very large span of Australian wrestling history. A lot of work on there done by Mark, keeping it updated over the years. But yeah, it's got a new coat of paint coming. But check it out. There's a lot of good info there. That's australianwrestling.org. And of course, the wrestlingroadshow.com. Nice little network we got going here.
Yeah, it's all coming together, and yeah, so definitely be good to hear from anyone. If you, like you said, if you've got any feedback or anything like that, that'd be great.
Yep, no worries. So that's it for us, and we will catch you down the road.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
In August.
In August.